Hello everybody, this is Overboy, and I'm going to be doing my ranking of all 23 MCU movies. I'm going to try to keep this video as short as I can, but I know it'll probably take at least 25 to 30 minutes and everything, but I'm going to try to go through these as quick as I can and everything, but, so starting off at number 23 is 2008's The Incredible Hulk. This movie is just pretty forgettable. It doesn't really have anything to do with any of the other MCU movies except for like Thunderbolt Ross appearing in a couple of them, and then outside of this movie, and Robert Downey Jr.'s cameo. It's a really forgettable movie too. I don't care for it too much and everything. I don't really hardly remember anything about it. The big fight scenes are just like CGI galore, and the CGI hasn't held up very well and everything, so it's number 23. And number 22 is Doctor Strange. Now, I do think this movie is like really good visually. It has really great visual effects, cinematography is great, and it has a great cast and everything. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is great as the character, and I think the rest of the cast is good. It's just, I don't think this is a very good movie. I don't really care too much for the story. Is just really slow paced and everything, and I think that Dormammu was a pretty bad villain, and the other villain of this movie was kind of forgettable. I don't even remember his name. That's how forgettable he is to me and everything. This movie is it's just not one of my most favorites, so it's number 22. And number 21 is Captain Marvel from earlier this year. I've only seen this movie once, and I don't really remember it very well, because I haven't seen it since it very first came out. It does have potential to go up on this list after a rewatch maybe, but I just remember thinking it was good and everything. But it was pretty much the typical MCU origin story. Want anything special or anything, but I think from what I remember, the cast was really good, especially Samuel Jackson, and I thought Brie Larson was really great as the character and everything, but I don't really remember this movie very well, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again. I should be getting it in the mail here anytime within the next week or two, so I'm hoping that with the rewatch I'll end up enjoying it a lot more. So Captain Marvel is number 21. And number 20 is 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really did enjoy this movie. It was a really fun movie and everything. I like all of the MCU movies. There's none of them that I really think are absolutely terrible movies or anything. Even the weakest ones are still entertaining enough to watch, and they're rewatchable and everything. I thought this movie was a lot better on rewatch, but it's still not one of my most favorites, but I do like it. I liked Ghost. I thought she was a pretty good villain and everything, even though she wasn't really that extremely intimidating or anything. I still thought she was a good character. I just like that this movie is a small-scale movie and everything. I think my main problem with this was it being released between Infinity War and Endgame, kind of, and that could be my problem with Captain Marvel as well. I was so much anticipating Endgame that I wasn't really wanting to see other MCU movies between them, if that makes sense. But I do like Ant-Man and the Wasp and everything. It's a lot of fun and everything. So it's number 20. And number 19 is 2011's Thor. I think this movie is kind of underrated. It's not one of my most favorites in the MCU, but I remember when I watched it for the very first time, I really enjoyed it a lot, and I still do enjoy it quite a bit on rewatch. It's not as good to me as it was when I very first saw it, especially since Thor has changed so much in the MCU since this movie and everything. I think the changes they've made in recent years have been for the better, but I do think that this one was a good movie. It's just not one of my most favorites of the MCU, but it's definitely not a bad movie either. So it's number 19. And number 18 is Thor: The Dark World. Now I'm in the very few percent of people that actually like this one more than the first one, but I actually really did enjoy this movie. I do agree though that Malekith is a terrible villain and everything, and this is one of the more forgettable MCU movies. It's not one that I absolutely love, but I do enjoy it quite a bit. I think it's a lot better than a lot of people say it is, but I can also understand why people don't like it very much and everything. But I do think that, like, the banter between Thor and Loki is really good in this movie and everything, and it does have some pretty good emotional moments, like when his mom gets killed and everything, but the chemistry between him and Jane, played by Natalie Portman, it's not very good and everything, and like I said, this one's just a mediocre movie, but I still find it enjoyable, and I did like it slightly a little bit more than the first one. So Thor: The Dark World is number 18, and number 17 is Ant-Man. Now, starting with this one up, these are all ones that I really, really enjoy a lot and everything. Now, I really enjoyed Ant-Man. This movie, I went into it not knowing what to expect, whether that I would like it a lot, and I really enjoyed it and everything. I was already kind of a fan of Paul Rudd before this movie, although I had kind of lost track of a lot of his movies, but for a long time in my teenage years, I had watched a lot of his comedies and stuff. He was one of my favorite comedic actors and everything, and when I heard he was cast as Ant-Man, I was like, what? This sounds terrible and everything. And then Michael Douglas joined the cast, and that kind of made me even less excited, because I'm not a very big fan of Michael Douglas. I don't know what it is about him. I just never been a big fan of him. But I ended up loving this movie, and I actually liked Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. I thought he was one of the best casted characters in this movie, and I thought Paul Rudd was great as Scott Lang as well. So Ant-Man is number 17, and number 16 is 2011's Captain America: The First Avenger. This was a really great way to introduce Captain America to the MCU and everything. Chris Evans was great as Steve Rogers, and I remember when I heard about his casting, I was like, this is gonna suck and everything, because I hated him in the Fantastic Four movies, and didn't really care for him in any of the other stuff I had seen, and the only thing he was in that I kind of somewhat liked was, at that time, was another teen movie, which I haven't seen in years, but I was like, nah, he's gonna suck as Captain America. But after I saw the movie, I completely changed my mind. I can't picture anybody else playing Steve Rogers and everything now. I think he was great in the role, and he's one of the reasons why whenever I think someone doesn't sound like they're gonna fit the role and they get casted, I'm usually more anxious to see what it's like because of him, because of this. I'm like, I've underestimated them before, and they always seem to know when they're casting people how to cast them for the right roles. So Captain America the First Avenger is number 16, and number 15 is 2010's Iron Man 2. I know a lot of people don't like this movie and everything because it has too much going on at once, and I do agree that there are a lot of plots going on at once. This movie is kind of got a lot of things going on, focusing on Tony's health declining because of his arc reactor thing and his drinking problem, and setting up the Avengers and his problems with Whiplash and everything. And there's just so much stuff going on in this movie that it's kind of hard to keep track. And so I understand why people don't like this movie as much. It used to be a lot higher on this list for me, but it's kind of dropped some in recent years. But I do like Iron Man 2. I can agree with people that it has too much stuff going on at once. I don't think that it's as bad as a lot of people say it is, but it's still not one of my very most favorites anymore. Excuse me. But it's still enjoyable and everything, and I always enjoy watching it. But so it's number 15, and number 14 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This is another one that's dropped quite a bit on my list. I really did enjoy this movie when it first came out, when I saw it in the theater. And then the first few times I rewatched it, I really enjoyed it. And then last couple times I watched it, I started thinking about how some of the stuff that they play for jokes is just really messed up. Like the way that Drax emotionally abuses Manus, and she's not realizing that he's being emotionally abusive, like telling her how ugly she is and stuff like that. Just some really mean humor. It's not. They try to play it for laughs, but it's not that funny. And like when they're torturing Baby Groot, I didn't think that was really that funny either, and everything. I thought it was just really mean-spirited humor. But besides that, though, I did enjoy this movie. I think that the cast was pretty good and everything, and I like Ego as a villain. I thought he was a pretty good villain and everything. But this was kind of dark, and some of the humor just didn't land for me and everything. But it does have its really funny moments as well, because there are parts where I was about to die laughing, like when Mantis and is telling everybody about Peter's feelings for Gamora, and Drax starts laughing. I think that's one of the funniest scenes in the whole MCU and everything. So there are really good moments in this movie. I think Baby Groot is adorable and everything, and Yondu's sacrifice is really emotional. So while there are things in this movie I don't like and everything, there are a lot that I do like as well. So Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was number 14, and number 13 is Captain America the Winter Soldier. I know a lot of people probably have this movie at the very top of their list because it's a pretty popular movie in the MCU, and I can understand why and everything. But I'm not real big on the whole conspiracy thriller type of movies. There are ones that I do like out there, but I'm not a huge fan of these type of movies, so that's one of the reasons why it's not one of my most favorites. But I do enjoy this one a lot. It does have some really great action scenes, and like the stunts and special effects and stuff are really good in this, and the cast is really good. The chemistry between Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson is really great and everything. I think Samuel Jackson was really good in it, and even though this isn't one of my most favorites in the franchise, I do like it a lot, and I can understand why a lot of people do like it, because it is a good movie and everything. So, Captain America: The Winter Soldier is number 13, and number 12 is Iron Man 3, another one that gets a buttload of hate, and I can understand why. The Mandarin twist is kind of dumb and everything, but and when I saw this movie for the first time, I was really, really disappointed in it. I'm not too familiar with the comics, but I know enough to know that the Mandarin is like one of Iron Man's best villains and everything. Between the few comics that I have read and doing research on the characters and like various animated shows and stuff, I knew that the Mandarin was supposed to be one of his best villains, and I hated the way that they did him and everything. Although I will say, even though the twist sucked and everything, I still thought that Ben Kingsley was pretty hilarious and everything, and I like the chemistry between Tony Stark and the boy. I can't remember what his name is, but the chemistry between them two, it was pretty good, and I just think this was a good movie. I don't think it's one of the best in the MCU, but I don't think it's one of the worst either. I think it gets overhated and everything, and I used to be one of the ones that overhated it as well. But as time has gone by, I enjoy it a lot more than I used to and everything. So Iron Man 3 is number 12, and number 11 is Thor Ragnarok. This was a huge step up from Thor: The Dark World, and they totally changed the tone of this movie from the other two in the franchise and everything. And a lot of times when they do that, it doesn't work. But this is one of those cases where the tone and everything changing and having more of a lighthearted comedic tone really paid off. I think Taika Waititi's writing and directing was amazing. It has some really great special effects in this movie, makeup effects and stuff. The CGI wasn't absolutely terrible like it is in some of the MCU movies, and I think it's just a really, really good movie. So Thor Ragnarok is number 11, and number 10 is Spider-Man: Homecoming. Last time I did my rankings for these movies, I had this movie a lot lower than I should have. And it was because it does have some continuity errors and everything, but the more I think about it, put those continuity errors aside, this movie is still a lot of fun. And Tom Holland is great as Spider-Man. I love Robert Downey Jr. in this movie, and Tom Holland's or Peter's friends and stuff, I think, are pretty cool, pretty good. They're pretty likable, I guess, especially Ned. And I know a lot of people didn't like Zendaya's character, Michelle Jones, or as she says at the end of the movie, she goes by MJ. I think she was good. I don't get why people hate her so much and everything. In this movie, she doesn't really have that much to do, but you can kind of tell that they were waiting for the sequel to set more up with her and everything. If you really watch the movie, you can kind of see that she was going to play a bigger part in the next movie, which she does and everything. So, but yeah, this is just a really, really good Spider-Man movie. It's a lot of fun and everything, and it deserves to be a lot higher than I used to have it, so it's number 10. And number 9 is Avengers Age of Ultron. I think this movie is kind of underrated too. Um, I really enjoy it. I love seeing all these characters together and everything. I can't say that this is my least favorite out of the 4 Avengers movies, and I can understand why a lot of people would also say it's their least favorite and everything, because while it is good and everything, it doesn't feel like it's as big of a deal as the first movie was, because the first movie was their first big crossover, and then the other 2 movies just felt like big event movies. This one just is I guess it's the Meg Griffin of the series, I guess is a good way to put it. But I do think that it's a good movie, but I can understand why people don't like it. It does have a lot of pacing issues, and Ultron could have been done a lot better, although I did think he was a pretty cool villain. But I think they could have taken more time, made him a little bit more intimidating or whatever. But I think that's what the big problem with this movie was. It just felt a little bit too fast-paced in some parts of it, and then parts of it felt too slow-paced and everything. So it's just a really weirdly paced movie. So Avengers Age of Ultron is number 9, and number 8 is the Oscar-winning 2018 movie Black Panther. Now, this movie, I didn't know what to expect when I went to see it. I knew I liked Black Panther, the character anyway, because of Captain America Civil War. I really liked him in that. I was excited about this movie and everything, and then I went in and saw it, and it ended up being one of the most fun I had at an MCU movie at the time and everything. I really, really enjoyed it a lot. I thought it had a really great cast, and I thought Chadwick Boseman was excellent as T'Challa, and I think that Michael B. Jordan was really great as Killmonger. Really great villain, one of the best villains in the MCU and everything, and I just thought it was a really, really great movie. So Black Panther is number 8, and number 7 is 2008's Iron Man, the one that started it all. I just absolutely love this movie. I remember when it first came out, I didn't really know what to expect. Everybody had told me about how bad Robert Downey Jr. was and everything because of his drug problems and all that. So I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really know much about Robert Downey Jr. at that time, and don't think I'd really seen any of his stuff really either at that time. Maybe 1 or 2 of his older movies, but I went into this movie expecting to think it was just going to be a mediocre movie and everything. I ended up really, really liking it a lot, and I still think it's one of the best MCU movies. I think Robert Downey Jr. was the best casting for the MCU, and at that time he was really the main casting, but you know what I mean. He's just absolutely wonderful as Tony Stark and Iron Man and everything, and I just think that it's just a really, really great movie. So Iron Man is number 7, and number 6 is 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy. This is another one like most people. I didn't really know what to expect. I had never really heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy or anything, so I was like, I don't know whether this movie's going to be good or not. I saw the trailers and I was like, it looks like it could be pretty fun and everything, and then I ended up seeing it when it got on DVD, and I was like, man, this movie was even better than I ever expected it would be, and it's become one of my favorite movies since then and everything. So I give Guardians of the Galaxy number 6, and number 5 is 2012's The Avengers. I really like this movie. It was the first big crossover movie in the MCU, and everything. I remember when it first came out, everybody was talking about it, and I wasn't really fully caught up on MCU movies at that time. I had only seen like the first Iron Man, and I ended up binge watching all of the other ones right before this one came out, and I ended up loving this movie quite a bit. I thought it was just a really great superhero movie. It's one of my favorites still of the MCU. It has some really epic moments and everything. So it's number 5, and number 4 is Captain America Civil War. I thought this was a great ending to the Captain America trilogy, even though it's not really the end of his story. That comes in Endgame, but it's still a really good movie. The cast was great in it and everything. I thought it was one of Robert Downey Jr.'s best performances as Iron Man, and one of Chris Evans' best performances as Steve Rogers and everything. I like how they made it where both sides are reasonable. You can kind of understand why both sides are doing what they're doing and everything. And I will admit though that I kind of stopped being a Captain America fan after this movie because of some of the things that happened in it, which some of the things he was right on, but there are also things in there that made me not be a fan of him anymore and everything. And part of it is because I'm such a huge Iron Man fan anyway, so when you're putting them up against each other, I'm just going to be Team Iron Man anyway. But this was also a great way to introduce Black Panther and Spider-Man into the MCU. They both got introduced, and it was awesome getting to have them in here and everything. So Captain America Civil War is number 4, and number 3 is the newest movie on this list, Spider-Man Far From Home. I've been a huge Spider-Man fan for a really long time. He was really the first superhero that I became a huge fan of and everything. I grew up with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, but I've liked Tom Holland ever since his debut in Captain America Civil War and everything. I thought he was great in both the Avengers movies and in Homecoming and everything, but I feel like he gave his best performance as Peter Parker and Spider-Man in this new movie, Spider-Man Far From Home. It was just a really great movie. The rest of the cast in it is great too, especially Zendaya. The chemistry between her and Tom Holland is really great and everything. Jake Gyllenhaal was great as Mysterio, the villain, and everything. But this was a Spider-Man movie I've been waiting for a long time and everything. I liked Homecoming, I liked Into the Spider-Verse and everything, and Spider-Man 3, but I think this was the best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2 in 2004 and everything. This was just this Spider-Man movie I've been really waiting for a long time and everything. So it's number 3, and number 2 is Avengers Infinity War. This movie just really feels epic and everything. I think it's great that they have so many characters in this movie and all of them get a chance to shine. I think they did a really great job with that, because there's like characters from all of the movies that were out before this one. I think there was like 19, I think this was the 19th movie. Can't remember, but I thought that he did a really great job giving each character their own time in the spotlight, and it has some really great action scenes and everything. So Avengers Infinity War is number 2, and number 1 is Avengers Endgame. This was just a really great movie. easily one of my favorite movies of this year so far. It's actually my second favorite movie of the year. I've seen it in the theater 3 times. I'm debating about maybe seeing it again on Friday if I can. I just really enjoyed this movie. I think it was a great movie with a great cast and everything. It finishes the character arcs for some of the characters and does it very well and everything. And the big battle at the end of the movie is really epic and awesome and everything. So Avengers Endgame is #1. So let me know in the comments what your favorite movie of the MCU is, and if you want to, let me know your ranking as well. I'd love to hear what your ranking is, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.